Good Sunday morning. Welcome into the Sports Source. We have a packed show for you today. Got some topics we didn't expect to be talking about, but we are going to cover the Michigan game a little bit. We're also going to talk about Cuonzo Martin's situation, Marquette possibly coming after him. We'll also talk about Jarnell Stokes. What does his future hold? What should it hold? What should he be looking at? Jam-packed, and we'll start it right now, this first segment of our show, brought to you by our good friends at Nova Copy. If you have a business need, they can come up with a solution for you. Copiers, wide format printers, plus they'll carry the equipment to do car wraps, signage, even 3D printing and 3D scanning. They have the equipment to do all of that. They are document solution specialists who can help your business make more money. Doesn't that sound good? Make more money. Call Nova Copy. They can help you do it. All right. Want to welcome in our panel today, an eclectic mix. We welcome in Vince Ferrara, who's on 990. You're all over that, but you host the sports page Monday through Friday. Welcome. We've got Mark Pankratz. Not going to be a good day. Mark Pankratz right here, former Vol staff member under Cuonzo Martin, former player under Bruce Pearl, worked on his staff as well. We have back with us Isaiah Victor, former Volunteer, once led the D-League, the NBA Developmental League in scoring, played all over the world. We'll talk to him about Jarnell Stokes. Also, basketball analyst for our friend Dave Hooker on his show over on TSR 1180. We have right here Chuck Cavaleris. You can find Chuck anywhere. There he is. All right. I want to start with the Michigan game, and then we'll dive into the coaching stuff and Jarnell Stokes. Tennessee loses 73-71 to Michigan. Michigan wins the first half playing their style of basketball. Tennessee wins the second half playing their style of basketball. In the end, the difference was 2 points. I thought it was a fun game to watch. To me, biggest impact from beginning to end, Jerron Maimon getting those 2 early fouls. I just thought that took him on. They put him on the bench, but also took Tennessee out of their normal game, I thought.
Well, yeah, I said before the game started, I thought that 4 spot was going to be the difference maker. And ultimately, when Jerron got in foul trouble, they were able to dictate tempo and run the things that they wanted to run. And then the second half, our big guys took advantage of them inside, and we were able to do the things that we needed to do to be effective in our game plan. So that was the biggest difference for me as well.
Thoughts?
Yeah, it was the worst possible start for Tennessee because, as Mark said, they can dictate tempo. They're a front-running type of team. Even though they let up, Tennessee still showed a lot of heart at the end and coming back. But you wanted to be the team in front to dictate and pick your spots in transition there. They hit tough shots, and I think Tennessee was used to dominating teams defensively, and that didn't happen. And they rallied and came back, but it was just not the kind of start you were looking for.
Thoughts, guys?
Definitely, Maimon going out hurt us on defense. He's one of the anchors of the defense. And in the first half, Michigan seemed to do just about what they wanted to do. They played really well together. They ran their system. You didn't see that tenacious defense stopping anything that they really wanted to do. So that ultimately helped them put us in a hole that was too much for us to overcome.
Chuck, that's one of the things we talked about last year. When Maimon went out, it was like Tennessee lost a little bit of their defensive ump. It was for a Celtic, anybody knows the Celtics, it was like when the Celtics lost Kendrick Perkins. Yeah. The defense kind of went south. And I thought that you saw that a little bit when they had to take him out. I'm still not a big fan. Everybody does it, except Rick Pitino the other night. Everybody, though, it's the new thing. You get 2 fouls in the first half, you sit down. I just thought that really hurt Tennessee, handicapped them.
Yeah, and we've seen it with Stokes when he gets 2 fouls and what it does to the flow of the game in your offense and everything. And when your season is on the line, I think it reaches a point where you've got to sometimes let somebody stay in there and see what happens. But yet some good things happened when Maimon came out after that phantom 4th foul. That had to be one of the worst calls, too.
That was – people debate the last one.
Yes.
Now, you got some, too, because McCray ran over 2 men and they called it a block when that was he looked like a fullback. Tennessee needs him on the football team. Let's jump ahead. Let me ask you, Jerron Maimon guarding Robinson. Thoughts on that?
I think that's where you had to go because at the end of the year, you're not going to change what you do. All these you're going to do what got you there, and you're hoping that you can dictate the game plan. Your size can have an impact to where now Michigan has to adjust to you. And because of those early foul troubles, not only did Jerron get 2, Jarnell got an early one. And him knowing that Jerron got 2 fouls, when Jarnell got that early foul, that kind of put him on his heels a little bit as well.
It's also one of those things where, as we were just saying, you take one of those guys out, they're not as good by themselves as they are with the other guy out there. Right. I think either one of them, the game drops when the other guy isn't out there to bang some elbows with him. There were questions about Tennessee's effort and heart on defense in the first half. if you watch Twitter through all these games, that's the new thing. If your team's behind, they don't care. You responded on Twitter the other night a little about that, talking about the shooting and the spacing of this Michigan offense.
Well, that's an easy out for anybody sitting on a couch to go do. They're not playing hard. They're not playing with effort. Michigan is known for their offensive spacing, and they're a great shooting basketball team. They have 4 great shooters. Their 4-man comes in and shoots 50% from 3. So it was about their spacing. Our guys had to be so close to shooters that they were late on rotations, and that's what makes Michigan a good ball club. It had nothing to do with these guys' effort out on the basketball floor.
Great screeners too. They do extra screening too that you don't always anticipate. And look, good shooters make tough shots, and that's what they do. And so there's a margin of that. It's just that Tennessee, I think with that matchup, they had to see what they could do for it. And they actually brought back Maimon, but he was cautious and he wanted to pick up his third foul.
Back out.
Yeah, because
he Olayed someone and they took him right back out.
It was Robinson.
Yeah.
The third.
The last play, Tennessee makes an incredible comeback, gets a shot at it. They get the ball into Stokes. Thoughts on the design of that play?
I'm not sure how it was designed because I wasn't in the huddle, but to me,
thoughts on how it was run?
Yeah, I could only talk about how it wound up. But you got Stokes, and he's 17 feet away from the basket on the baseline, and which the baseline serves as a defender. Then he has another defender, and the hardest way to score is on the first pass. So he has a whole 5 defensive players looking at him, and then he makes a move to the basket, which pretty much had to be the move just based on the situation he was in at the time.
I would almost think Michigan might have drawn up a better play than Tennessee did, that they were going to try and defend. I mean, that, to me, if you're going to set a screen, I would have rather seen Stokes as the screener and try and get it to McCray or even Josh Richardson. I mean, who's the guy that's responsible for you being there?
Well,
but then, to put your head down and to drive right into a double team without making a pass, I mean, it gave the referee a reason to make a split-second decision.
Here's the thing about those last-second deals, though. We can sit here and debate those every single week. We can talk about the last play drawn up by Bruce Pearl against Ohio State when it was Ramar Smith going into the lane. I remember we sat here and everybody had a different play. So I didn't like the design of that one. I didn't mind getting it to Stokes. I didn't like where they got it to Stokes and what he was asked to do with it. But to me, you can question the last play of games every game you see. Last one, though, charging call. From the ref's angle, you look where he was standing, he could see Stokes lower his shoulder and a guy falls down. To me, you hate to see it called there, but I wasn't shocked. I wasn't throwing things at a television screen. I just didn't think it was that big of a deal.
Well, go ahead.
Live, I thought. Live, I was upset when I first saw it. I was like, "You can't make that call." Slow motion looked like it could have been a charge. The big thing about it is if you're arguing that it should have been a no call, well, then Michigan's right there to clean up the loose ball anyway.
Yeah.
So it's hard either direction, whichever way you go. The position he was put in was tough.
I thought it was a block. I don't think he set himself straight. I think he was leaning back and starting to fall back when contact was made. The problem is that Tennessee set itself up to be in that position for that bad call, miss free throws, and as Isaiah said, you're in a low percentage play and you know what you're going to do.
Yeah, and that's when I say it's not a big deal. Obviously, it's a big deal, but the point is, I don't think that's the reason you lost.
Right.
There are calls like that in every game. Reason you lost, in my view, you played a great game. Out of nowhere, you missed 6 free throws. I mean, I know that poor Jordan McRae's going to have to live with it, but he missed 5 free throws. You hit your free throws down the stretch, you win that game. That's what it boiled down to. When we come back, we are going to talk about Cuonzo Martin's future. We're going to have you some stats, some facts today. There's been a lot of misinformation floating around. We're going to straighten that up. We're going to bring a big eraser and erase some nonsense that's been spread, and you can make your own decision once you see actual facts. Come on back on the Sports Source.